Okay, it's a trending news now that there was a mass wedding in Kano. Okay, what people have not paid attention to, and why I feel like sobbing for Nigeria, is the fact that this is not just a mass wedding; it's an abuse of people human rights, abuse of federal allocation, and a call to national arrest. Kano State and the Kano State government have actually turned a blind eye to certain things that could shake the nation. Just recently, a Islamic cleric called Christians infidel. Imagine if Pastor Neche or Pastor Adeboye decide to call the Muslims infidel too, and their follow and Kumuyi call, Sheikh call, and it will result to a fight that you cannot explain, because the military wouldn't even know where to stand, because in the military they have both Muslims and Christian. But Kano State allowed this to go on. Kano State didn't stop there. Kano State proceeded to using federal allocation given to them to run the state, to marry massively for certain people that cannot afford wedding. So if you cannot pay for your wedding, how do you intend to take care of the children and the wife? That is one question. Second question, federal government giving money to the north, to the east, to the south, and to the west with spending autonomy without generating autonomy. You have spending autonomy. That is, you don't give a quotation, you don't give a budget to which your allocation is funded on. Okay, we want allocation for 200 billion to run the state for the month of August. Making sense? What are we putting this money into? These are budgets you put in place. That is a system. Don't just say we have budgeted. When you were budgeting, did you put mass wedding in the budget? Or is it that mass wedding is coming from the welfare budget of the state? And if it's coming from the welfare budget of the state, which philanthropists gave the state the money to do mass wedding for the masses? Or is it the federal allocation that was actually borrowed and to some extent gotten from another region of the country where oil is? That is where you now use in your own state to marry massively and give birth to massive people that will now become touts and bandits in the same country, terrorizing the nation. These are things we didn't ask questions. So a government is supposed at this point to start questioning their own action. The United Nations are just looking at, the world are just looking at us and they're laughing. If IMF was to give Nigeria money, the first thing they will ask us is, bring a spending plan before we give you this money. They are borrowing us money. They are asking us to give them a plan. They will also give us a guideline to how to go about this money, so that you will not just go and waste the money, right? But when Nigeria give their state money, they don't even guide them on how to spend this money. So anybody can just lobby to become a governor, and there is no system. And that's why EFCC keep going after ex-governors, ex-senators, because the money, first of all, does not have an audit standard. You cannot win a case. If your child come to meet you and say, Daddy, I'm going back to school, I need 700,000. The first thing you ask is, break it down. Let me see the list of how you use this money in school. You cannot just say 700,000 budgeted for going to school. Go to school. And then you hear that your son went and buy shisha pot, and you start, how do you want to audit? You just gave the money. But if your child said, I'm going to buy sandals, I'm going to buy book, I'm going to buy handout, I'm going to pay for school fees, you start checking which of them was not done and where was the money misused. A federal system of governance is not trying. You gave states autonomy to spend, but no autonomy to generate. They have to generate what they are spending. Because if they generate what they are spending, they will not have money to do this kind of useless thing like mass wedding. That is one. Another thing is, this governor self, I don't understand your stance. Is it that there was a medical team that checked for genotype, check for disease screening, compatibility screening, psychological screening before you mass out weddings? Massing out wedding is like a criminal act. I don't understand. It's like a criminal act. Building a home is a financial journey. And if people cannot even start the bench of it, then what's the essence of good? How does that make you a leader or an economist? So, in total, what we're saying is, before a federal government, we're talking about building system. Before a federal government issues any money to any state, it doesn't matter whether from the north, east, west, south, let them give you a budget. A budget of what in every penny of that money is going to for the period under review. And after that period under review, if that money is not given, if any of those parameters are not touched, the EFCC, the ICPC, any other agency can go after these governors, even while they are in seat and their immunity breaks. And that's how you call for accountability. And if it's on welfare, the structures should not replace. We're not talking about any. Let's talk about structures. Not anytime that there is a trouble, we'll start trying to be reactive to it. Structures that work, systems that will make the future great for us. That's what we're talking about. So if a governor wants to spend ₦1 trillion in the states and the federal government have that money to give to them, then let that government or let that state government profile a detailed expenditure of each naira in that budget request before the allocation. Then where they need certain allocation and they will generate certain, is allowed. But if these things are not in budget and these budgets are not made public, we'll still have criminals. When you have criminals, you start using open systems to fight. So let's do an open system budgeting, allocations, pending, no more autonomy. It will help. It will help things to curtail this kind of evil.